Hi, my name is Nanda Rizky and I am from International Relations batch 2019, and in this video I will answer and present my presentation about 5 questions for this midterm examination. Happy watching! For the first question, I will explain about the definition first. The term politics is derived from the Greek word is polis, which means the city-state. According to Greek philosopher, politics was a subject which dealt with all the activities and affairs of the state. So, politics was a total study of man, society, state, morality, and so forth and so on. And the other meaning of politics is the way people living in a group and make a decision. And politics is all about making agreements between people so they can live together in groups such as tribes, city, or countries. And political science, we can say it in easy sentence, it's a study about government politics or public policy. It's about the impact and effect of decision for the environment system. Politics affects all aspects of the citizen's life. It influences the country's economic and social strategies as well as government's attitudes towards core matters such as immigration, economic recession, education, individual and collective rights, and others. And furthermore, the term politics refers to both internal and external policies. As the science of politics is in constant evolution, its scope tends to vary and grow. Within the domain of political science, we can identify several other disciplines and subcategories such as international relations, comparative politics, national and international politics, political theory, political philosophy, and so many other. So, business diplomacy is focused on creating long-term positive relationship with both business and non-business stakeholders through communication and engagement. Not to confuse business diplomacy with the political activity of corporation that is mostly concerned with power, lobbying, or influencing politician and policymaker. So the tie between diplomacy, politics, and business is a very strong tie. So they may need each other because they're tied up together. So for the next slide, actually, what is Asia century? Asia century is the time when the economies of Asia will be larger than the combined economies of the rest of the world. The term is also used to refer to the dominant role the region is expected to play in this 21st century. As an outcome of the past 2 decades of economic growth that was initially led by China and India. So actually there's some factors that can support this Asia century. The first one is Asia's population is more than half of the world's population, 50% of global GDP, 70% of the world's 30 largest cities, the world's largest manufacturing hub, and soon will be the largest consumer market in the world. So that can support the term Asia century. I'm personally agree with these Asia century terms because the first one is in purchasing power parity or PPP terms, China is now a bigger economy than the US, accounting for 19% of global output in 2019. The second is India currently sits in 5th place in the GDP rankings and it's also beat the US, and British Bank Standard Charter believes India and China will both jump over the US. GDP by US GDP by 2030 and forecast that the world's 10 biggest economies by then will mainly be made of current emerging market at the US too. And the last is ASEAN economies are on track to become larger than the rest of the world combined in 2020 PPP terms. So that are my answer for the second question, and I personally agree with the Asia Century terms. And the next about the threats in Asia. So, in this current political dynamic in Asia, there are several security threats that happen and occur, such as proliferation of nuclear weapons, so China's Sea territorial dispute, the Taiwan issue, and also the terrorism. The first one is nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapon is the biggest threat facing the region is the proliferation nuclear weapons. There are several countries have issues that related with these dangerous weapons such like North Korea and Iranian. And the second is the Taiwan issue and territorial dispute of the South China Sea. Both of the issue was centered in China as a regional power. The South China Sea was another long-standing territorial dispute involving China, Japan, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. The problem is essentially of overlapping claims of possession of the sea. And the last is terrorism. The case of terrorists who disguise themselves and act in the name of Islam is very dangerous. Islam is being hijacked by an enlightened minority of militants who ignore the core universal values of Islam and whose activities grossly distort the image of this religion. This phenomenon is disguising itself in its exterior aspect as religious intolerance, extremism, and political violence, in contrast to the Islamic values itself, which are full of tenderness, politeness, and such a beautiful religion. So those are the threats that facing in this current region. Next is the challenges that the new President Joe Biden will face to deal with in Asia according to his foreign policy. The first one is Mr. Joe Biden have a slogan in his period, Build Back Better. It was centered around the handling coronavirus pandemic, rebuilding the US economy, and tackling systemic racism and economic inequality. It no need a long time to wait. Challenges come to America, and one of them is cajoling America's allies into alignment to manage a rising China together. Even from Trump's period, China already identified as the greatest long-term threat to the US. It can be seen from China's act to the South China Sea case. In this case, Biden will keep some Trump's tariffs in place and expand human rights sanctions, but still people need and expect Biden will give some new strategy and different tactic from the previous president, so America will not align US allies anymore, like they did when Trump still be the president. And the second is because Trump was failed to negotiate and disarm the president of North Korea, Kim Jong-un. Trump also give a lot of time for North Korea to build more nuclear weapons and perfect his ballistic missile capability with short-range tests that violated UN resolution. Now the new president, Mr. Joe Biden, said he would negotiate with Kim's regime, but not with Kim himself, until working level negotiator had reached at least an interim deal. It's unclear if he would accept that kind of short-term deal to open a door to a longer-term solution, but some analysts argue it's the only way forward given the deep mistrust on both sides. So there's still so many challenges that will be faced by the Biden's period, but this two case is kind of like the spotlight of all of the challenges. So let's move to the last question. Is about the difference between Indonesia and Malaysia's political transition. The first one is Indonesia, the political transition from the old order or order lama to the new order era or order baru. So the cause of political transition in Indonesia at 1998 is because when the old order was applied and the president of Indonesia at the time, named President Soeharto, proposed the order lama to restructure or rearrange the culture of the society, nation, and state based on Pancasila and Undang-Undang Dasar 1945. But sadly, after the 32 years government, President Soeharto cannot reach or achieve the purpose, and instead emphasizing and take advantage of certain groups. At 1998, the riot happened and the severity of the rupiah's weakening and security and political turmoil forced President Soeharto to step down from his position and change into the new order era, order baru. The state control of societal audiences made manifest an ideological themes, but cooptation and harsh coercion has produced hard authoritarianism, and accordingly scholars have found space in which to debate the purchase mode of politics in Indonesia, plotting it along short continuum from restricted pluralism to totalitarian ambition. This very limited electoral constitution, then together with low level of societal participation produced in Indonesia, is deeply authoritarian regime form. And the next is for Malaysia, and I call it the pro-democracy movement. Before the political transition in Malaysia was carried out, the freedom of voice and opinion was very limited. It could even become a boomerang to people who voiced their voices and opinion. And Malaysia's choice to overthrow the PN gives hope to other pro-democracy movements across the region, where the shrinking space for civil society, coupled with attacks on press freedom and a rise in authoritarianism and nationalism, are threatening civil liberties and political rights. The new government has taken one step in Malaysia hope to see by formally charging the former Prime Minister Najib Razak with corruption in the recently reopened investigation into the multi-billion-dollar wine scandal. And one of the people said that we should never underestimate the capabilities of people, says Chalila. If you give people the rights, message, and hope, they will overcome any obstacles that government of dictators may put in their faith. So this kind of movement is really, it's very good news for the activists and for the other people, so they can show their opinion freely. And under Indonesia New Order, elites have muted their rivalries enough that they have been able to act on these preferences, thereby perpetuating a hard authoritarianism. Moreover, they have didn't any lingering societal autonomy with elaborate mentalities, while elites in Malaysia have remained unified enough that they would probably have been able to maintaining any regime form. They have operated as semi-democracy, and in this context, they have controlled some societal audiences, yet used controls over others, enabling them to conserve state resources without endangering their status. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.